whole song that she did like 2 seconds of it, and then she left.
No, we did all the stars. They played right to 30. That's not good. That's not good.
He kept blasting all the stars on his last name. Not like us. During the
Happy Monday. I love the eagerness of some of you with the homework. With the do now thing. I'm gonna have you pause for 1 second if that's what you're starting on. I just wanna give a little heads up first. So if you started the do now, I'm gonna ask that you pause it for a moment. Okay, a couple of things. So just one, in terms of game plan for today, we'll address the SAT practice stuff, what you did last week when we had that virtual day, and then what we'll be doing going forward. We're gonna focus on Buddhism today, so we'll have the group present. I'll do some clarifying notes. If we have time, we might do a reading that may be used as like a class discussion on Wednesday. But just to put on your radar, just kind of like check for understanding before we add in all the monotheistic religions into the mix. We're gonna be doing a quiz on Hinduism and Buddhism next class. So just sort of like the basics, the beliefs, the practices, the pretty much like what you were covering on that chart that you're taking notes on as the groups present. So in terms of the SAT practice, I'm sure you've heard about this from some of your other teachers in your classes. Have you been doing this in other classes?
Yeah.
Okay, and then you've been doing this stuff in advisory as well on Fridays? No? Will be, maybe. So just like the story behind it, the rationale behind it is the SATs and the PSATs, which you may have heard about. If you haven't, they're essentially this standardized test that you'll take the PSATs, and the P just stands for practice. The PSATs in 10th grade, you take the SATs in 11th grade. If you are interested in like a career that might require you to go to college, or if you're interested in like the college route after high school, doing well on the SATs would be important to you because it's something that many colleges take into consideration when they're like weighing their decision for admissions, in addition to like the classes you take and your transcripts and your extracurricular activities, how well-rounded you are and all that stuff. But one thing that they'll look at is your ability to take tests, and they usually use the SATs to do that. But if you're not even interested in college, the other thing with the SATs is that it's a graduation requirement, so all students in Rhode Island schools have to take it. But then also, I can see how people would think like, I don't want to spend a ton of time like stressing out about a test. There are like some benefits of just improving your test taking skills. I don't know if I've like mentioned this before, but my husband, for instance, like he works in a career in construction, didn't go to like college for his job, but has to take standardized tests like every other year to maintain certain like licenses and stuff like that. So like even just being good at test taking is a skill that could be helpful kind of like regardless of what your plans are for after high school. The reason why we're starting to embody more SAT practice and prep in the classroom is because like historically in the past it seemed like there was a little bit of an equity issue where like some students would do like considerably well on the SATs, and usually that had a lot to do with socioeconomics. Like their parents were familiar with test taking. If their parents could afford to, then maybe they would like pay for SAT prep classes or for an SAT tutor or something like that. So then there were complaints that there were these like inequities as it relates to test taking. It's not like fair to sort of students that don't have exposure to that practice. So what we've been trying to do now as a school for the last few years is to expose all students in all grades and all classes. So this isn't just like an honors level thing or a CP level thing or anything like that, but all students in all classes are getting exposure to these test taking practice opportunities. So you'll get exposure in like the math classes to like math like SAT questions, and then in the history and the like English classes you'll get exposure to ELA questions. I don't want you thinking that I'm just randomly giving you some like obscure out of the blue document. So we've worked as a department to kind of make sure that the documents that you're reading, like even though it's SAT about Hinduism, the one today deals with Buddhism. And then in terms of the types of questions, I just wanna touch on that for just one moment, so using the ones that you looked at last week. So the ones with Hinduism. So there's kind of like a variety of questions they might ask you. They typically have like relatively short documents now. So this is like on the longer side for what you'll see on the SATs or PSATs. They're not having you read like 5-page passages or anything like that. They're relatively brief with a couple of questions about each passage. So in this case, you had document 1, it was about 20 lines long. And a typical question that you might see to start off with might be something like, what's the meaning of this word? So like, can you figure out what the word embodies means based on the context? And the great majority of you answered correctly that it meant represents in that case. Or can you figure out what the term faithscape means based on the context? But then sometimes you'll see that they'll ask something based on like your reading comprehension. Can you understand what they were getting at, like what the point of this part of the passage was? So here it's asking if you could understand that the author implies that the Hindu pilgrimage is significant because, like, can you understand the overall meaning of it? Or what's the main purpose of the passage? So those are some of the questions that you'll be exposed to, your understanding of certain vocabulary, your understanding of like the main purpose or like themes throughout a text. So with that being said, I'm gonna have you do another one this morning, dealing with Buddhism. There's just a couple of questions. I think there's maybe 4 in total. And it's posted right on Google Classroom, so just take a couple of minutes, read through that passage, respond to those questions, and then we'll regroup for the presentation.
Is the class picking supposed to be today?
The what?
The picking you're
just take another 2 minutes to finish that up if you need to. Bless you. Alright, so if you're still working, take that last minute if you needed to finish up these questions. If you're done, you can put the computers away, and you'll need those, charts that you were working on, about, the different religions, so the one that you were using as like a note-taking sheet. Everyone should have Hinduism done from last class, and we'll move forward with Buddhism today. The other paper, actually, while you're taking stuff out, the homework assignment from last class, and this was given out the day before the virtual day, I believe, so the one that deals with, Hinduism. You were reading an excerpt from the, Hindu text, and then you were responding to some questions about it. If you have that done, please just make sure that your name is on that and pass that forward. I'll get those back to you so you can use it to review with the quiz. Yeah, a lot of people were saying the video wasn't working, so if you need to the video part, that's okay. It's the one that has like the map on the front of the United States. You need those charts out for the note-taking sheet, just something to write with while the group is sharing their information, and then similarly to what we did with Buddhism, I'm gonna like go over, clarify some stuff afterwards. By no means am I doing it like on the toes of people that are presenting, just like clarifying some stuff, getting like a little bit deeper into some of the things. So the group, since it takes up like a little bit of space, if one of you just wants to be in charge of the mouse, like you can like scroll down when you're ready to. And then there's also, if you like go down to this once you're done so that you can do the map annotations. You can do that as well.
Dates back to 520 BCE and had about 400 million parents to the being universalized religion.
Some of the main beliefs of Buddhism are the Eightfold Path, which is essentially that it's just like the values and beliefs that like make each Buddhist achieve a wrong. The three universal truths are selfishness is wrong, and every person is just an entity with changing emotions that will only last a short time compared to eternity. And the Four Noble Truths are that greed creates suffering, and the only way to end suffering of people is to follow the middle path and end your greed. And then meditation is a practice that Buddhists do do to contemplate on life and like take in the beauty of the world. The Dala Hakra is the symbol represents the Buddhist teachings and beliefs. Their main goal is to escape the cycle of rebirth or become a Wakashtriv and help others attain enlightenment. The hearth is like in like Indian like places do and China area.
So, their sacred sites included Lumbini, which is where the Buddha was born, Bodhgaya, which is where he gained enlightenment, Sarnath, which we pronounce is.
It's, did you see the mouse right there?
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Sarnath is where he pronounces teachings, and, yeah, so the sacred text is the Tripitaka, or the Three Baskets, which is a collection of the Buddha's sayings. They were polytheistic, and they had multiple gods, and some of them included Uttara, Kuan Yin, and Amida Buddha.
Buddhism started in India, like upper right, and then it spread throughout China and down into the Philippines, and yeah. Any questions?
Okay, so, if you go back to the top, just a few that, like we can sort of clarify to make sure that you guys have this on your paper first. So they had mentioned, like in terms of their beliefs and practices, there's the Eightfold Path and the Four Noble Truths, which we'll get into. But immediately you can probably see a couple of similarities between Buddhism and Hinduism. So they mentioned like this concept of meditation, similar to like a practice that's done while you're doing yoga, which we saw with Hinduism. They also mention, and we'll discuss like nirvana and the concept of enlightenment, but the idea of like rebirth or reincarnation, that's like an extension of Hinduism. That's something that they sort of like took with them as this evolved from Hinduism. So similarly, they had mentioned that their main goal, and this is one that I feel like would be worth writing down, the main goal they wrote is to escape the cycle of rebirth and to essentially achieve nirvana or to attain enlightenment. So again, that's another similarity with Hinduism, where the idea is that like they will be reborn or they'll go through this cycle of reincarnation, but the goal is to essentially like break that cycle.
Can you scroll down to the calendar?
We good? Okay, thank you guys. All set.